Hi there. Welcome to I Like Art, the podcast. And I'm delighted today to interview one of my favorite artists. And she's from Canada and her work is incredible. Her name is Celine Gabrielle. And hi, Celine. Thanks so much for being on my show.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited to chat with you more and share with your listeners.
Oh my goodness. Welcome, welcome. Celine, you are a force to be reckoned with, and you create the most beautiful, amazing paintings. I am just so thrilled that you're here. This is like a dream come true. So my listeners today are also really excited to get to know you and your art and anything that you want to share. So let's get started. Are you ready? Awesome.
Let's do it.
Okay. Celine, tell me about you growing up. Your backstory. You can go as far as you want and just let us know kind of what Celine Gabrielle was like as a kid and how you got to where you are today as a professional artist.
Yeah, so it's a long, twisted road, really. But okay, so as a kid, I was always artsy. I just, was one of those kids that liked to draw and eat snacks. And my dad was a graphic designer. And so this would have been in the 80s to 90s. And he had a studio, or he called it his workroom in the house where he worked from home. And back in those days, graphic design wasn't on computers, right? It was all by hand. So we had this huge light table and this stuff called letraset, which was like it's on plastic, but it was fonts on plastic that you scratch off onto the I know, it was weird and wonderful, cool stuff. And he had acetate in different colors and all this cool stuff, because anytime he was making a poster or whatever he was making, it was all by hand. And so markers, rulers, pencils, you name it, he had it. And so I think that's probably why I was so immersed in art, was because I got to play with all this cool stuff all the time. And clearly, I mean, he's a creative, and my mom doesn't necessarily consider herself creative, but she totally is. She was a beautiful crocheter and just, threw us these elaborately decorated planned birthday parties and made furniture from scratch when she was in her, just getting going in life. And so she does creativity in her own way, which it's so funny because a lot of people, I think, feel oh, I'm not an artist, but art is about creativity. And I think creativity is a skill that so many people have, but they just discount it for some reason if it's not a picture hanging on the wall. So anyway, I had both of their influences. And so early on, I just loved making stuff. And then through school, once I got to about grade 8, there was a school. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And there was a public school there, but it was an arts high school. And so in order to go to the school, and the arts was everything from dance to music to visual arts, literary arts, drama. Anyway, but to get into the school, you had to audition. And so I decided that was the school for me. And so I had to go do an audition to get in. And it was one of the most exciting and actually incredibly strange experiences of probably my life to do this audition. Can I tell more?
Sure.
Okay. So the audition to get in was sort of two parts. They had you do a walkthrough with your art. So you had to make a portfolio. So mind you, you're in grade 8, so you're 13. And I had art classes at school, but nothing super elaborate, right? So it was just whatever art I had. And you have to lay it out in this classroom and then walk the teachers through and talk about this piece and talk about that piece. And it was all very felt very professional for a 13-year-old. So I had a pastel monster and
I love it.
nothing that really needed a deep explanation. But anyway, so I did that part, which is great. Fine. Okay. Got that over with. The second part was more like a workshop style. And so I don't know anybody else auditioning for this school, period, let alone in the arts program. So we're given the time and we show up, and you're ushered into this, like, in my mind, like a really professional art studio, because it's like a huge warehouse space in the school that's dedicated for art, and it has like all the stacks for works in progress, like the older students, the current students, all their works are out. And anyway, so the teacher comes in and she's like, okay, everybody, like, grab a donkey. And I'm like, what the hell's a donkey? But it's in case you don't know, it's like a wooden bench, I guess, that you sit on, and there's like a board, and then you put your paper on the board. So you have to grab your donkey and your board and newsprint, which is like, you know, huge, and Conte is like waxy charcoal, in case you're not familiar. And you sit at your donkey with your newsprint, and then you wait. And so we're like, you know, these timid 13-year-olds, and we're like looking around, scoping each other out, and I'm just like following what other people are doing, because I didn't know how to do any of this. Maybe they didn't either, but we all figured it out. So we're sitting there, and the teacher comes in with this man, this older gentleman, and he has a robe on, and they're chatting, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like an oblivious teenager, like I'm not putting anything together. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm sort of looking ahead, and there's like a raised platform with like a heat thing over here and like some lights, and I still didn't put it all together. But anyway, so the teacher says, all right, everybody, this is Charles. He's going to be our model. And he steps up on the platform and drops his robe, and he's completely out there for all to see. Boys and girls, you know, 13-year-olds, and this naked dude who's like in his, oh God, he had to be, at least to me as a 13-year-old, he looked like he was like 70. Like he was an old, you know, an old naked man in front of me. And she says, draw. And I was like, okay, first of all, I've never seen a naked guy in real life. I had all girls in my family. I mean, I had a dad, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I just didn't have that experience. And so she says, draw. And my newsprint, mind you, is this cute, you know, it's like, I don't know, 2 feet by whatever. And the Conte is like pressed into these little square rectangle shapes. So I've never used it before. So I just take it like a pencil, and I use like the sharp pointy corner of the Conte. And my little man was probably like 1.5 inches. Like it was a minuscule tiny thing on this huge sheet. I wish I still had it, because it is the most hilarious thing. Anyway, so then she lets us do our first one. And then she starts like instructing and telling us like, here's how you use the Conte. And it's like charcoal, like you use the side of it and you can smudge it and, you know, whatever. And then she's like, look at the contours, look at the light, look at the shadow, look at this, look at that. Like well, that's what she was there to do, was teach us, right? And I think that was the point. So she went through the whole workshop, and like the immense change from me just trying to do it on my own versus, you know, the end of this workshop and the instruction and the improvement, I think was probably what they were looking for, people who are, you know, able to grow and take direction. And long story short, I got into the school, but I'll never forget that, because I think even to this day, it's still reinforced in me that art is something that can be taught and can be learned. You know, I think sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't have that talent, but I've seen other people too that I think with knowledge and encouragement can really expand and grow, as well, in any field, but in art in particular, right? Like there is actual tips, tricks, ideas that can help you, you know, just get better at what you're creating. And so, yeah, so that was like, I'll still never forget it. And then, so Charles is this old guy, and he was like really edgy too. So he wasn't just old, but he's a nude model, and he had piercings in like some unmentionables and like tattoos. Like he was a cool dude, right? Anyway, so
can we time out? Can we hit the timeout on this? So I had, first of all, my oldest daughter's 13. So the thought of my daughter going through this experience makes me have a heart attack and die. like, does this still happen?
It's new. Like, do they still do that? I don't know. Anyway, continue. Yeah.
Okay. So second, I had the same exact experience as you, except I was 19 and I was in art school. And my first experience was with Jerry. So I had a Jerry. And at the time Charles. I thought he looked like he was 100 years old. And I will never forget Jerry in my mind, like the whole of Jerry.
Yeah.
Geriatric. Yeah. I mean, it was, I still feel like I was a kid, but I can't imagine at 13. I remember wanting to draw a fig leaf. Like, can we do that? Because
I just had like big bald areas, if you know what I'm saying. Like just not going there. We're just gonna avoid that part.
Like, you gotta look at the whole person.
Yeah. Okay. And I did eventually, but that was a bit much for that first that's like sink or swim, like they throw you in, right?
It's not like they give you a pencil either. It's like, here's this broad drawing tool.
Weird thing that you've never used before either. Do something with that.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but I love that so much.
It's good. I mean, I think probably it's a relatable for artists, right? But it's just such a funny, I think at the time, you know, it's just so funny. And to think back at that. And of course, Charles was a regular, like we had a variety of models.
Yeah. You drew more than one.
He was like, he was like a lovely guy, right? Yeah. Like it was totally fine, but it was just so odd, that first experience. But anyway, so I did get into this high school, and I loved my experience. It was incredible, especially considering it was a public high school. We had ceramics, we had printmaking, we had photography, we had life drawing with real nude models regularly. We had like such a vast exposure to art, which was incredible. And so I thought, this is me. This is what I'm going to do. I love this. However, when I got to the end of my high school career, and you know, you have teenagers, and so do I now, it's like, make a decision. Like, what are you going to do with your life? Decide. And all schools are expensive, but art school in particular, for some, I guess it depends what you're comparing to, but art school can be expensive. And then on top of that, you have to buy all your own supplies and this and that. And so anyway, I did a tiny bit of research. I wasn't like a huge researcher, but I knew enough to like dig around. And the school the art college that I wanted to go to was going to be X number of dollars. And then I thought, I wonder what, and I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to be a fine artist. I didn't want to be a graphic designer or a photographer or whatever. I wanted to be a painter. And so I looked into like fine artists in Canada. So this was in 1996. And don't quote me if you go back and do the research and I'm wrong, but in my mind, it was somewhere around like they were earning $6,000 a year. And then the art school for 1 year, like just 1 year, was going to be like $20,000. So I knew enough that like 4 years at art school, $80,000, $6,000 for the rest of my life. I couldn't put the two together. And the fact that everybody's always talking, and to this day, you know, that, artists are starving artists, right? Over and over and over, starving artists. And so I just got terrified and I said, screw that, I'm not doing it. And then I went into this like deep despair spiral. What am I doing with my life? Teenage angst.
What'd your parents say? Because your parents are very creative. Was your dad like, hey, you should try graphic design? Or was he like, don't become an artist? I'm just curious.
No, my parents were like 60 hippies types, and they're still like, whatever makes you happy. And so I'm like, I'm going to take a year off and figure things out. And they're like, okay. So I just stayed home and did nothing for most of it. Yeah. And then I think about 6 months in, I wasn't happy. And anyway, my mom tried to cheer me up. And so she sent me to the spa to get a manicure. And that was like another sort of big switch moment, because I started talking to the esthetician, and she's like, it's an industry that's really growing, skin, health, wellness, you know, all of that. Robots can't do this job, or at least not maybe in the future they'll be able to, but at that point, you know, it was a very hands-on profession. I like working with my hands. I like spa environments. It's peaceful and calm and nice and it smells good. And so anyway, I looked into the course for that, and it was like within my budget and I could do it in under a year. And I thought, look, I'll try it and I'll make art on my own time, and we'll, you know, and we'll see what happens. But then it didn't exactly like I didn't exactly make any art. So I did continue with aesthetics for over 20 years. I was an esthetician and I owned my own spa business, but sadly I didn't make any art.
Oh, it's so hard though. Because meanwhile you're growing a family too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the whole creative part of my life was like ramping up, and then it just totally like nosedived. I basically didn't do anything except I became a lot like my mom, like and my dad. So even though I was an esthetician and a small business owner, there was a lot of creativity because I was doing all my marketing, and I was doing the graphic design for like my marketing and promotion, and I was decorating my spa, and you're right, I had kids, and then I was doing the birthday parties for them, and you know, like, so my creativity was still there, but I didn't paint anything for like 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't seem super angry, which I'm thankful. Like you're good with it.
Look, you know what? Life is like that.
Yeah.
You just don't know how it's going to twist and turn. But it's funny, like the more I talk about this path, the more interesting it is that there seems to be these catalysts or these points in life when something that could be detrimental or devastating, and maybe it is in the moment, you know, like coming to that realization about not going to college was hard. Like that's why I was home and sad. But then, you know, in an instant, there was a switch, and I loved being an esthetician. It was a fabulous career. I enjoy people, and you're one-on-one with people. And again, the smells of that, making people feel good about themselves. So no, I really loved that. But then, you know what? Even at that, then I had another like smack in your face catalyst that switched again. So I was doing aesthetics and have, you know, the small business thing, but because I'm in a so somewhere along the lines, I left Ottawa, moved to Nova Scotia, moved to a small town in Nova Scotia, like really small, like 4,000 people small. And so even though I started my business here and it was doing well and I was growing, I could not keep staff. It was just so difficult because a lot of the people in that industry tend to be a little bit younger and they're more transient, and this sleepy little town was not really where they wanted to be. And there were no schools here. So all the training was in the bigger city. And so they'd have to move up here. Anyway, long story short, I had the business for over 10 years, but as I kept losing staff, I kept like downsizing the business, that instead of growing it, I actually like got smaller. So by the end of it, I was working a lot. I was doing a lot of treatments, and I started to have wrist pain. And then it got worse and worse. So it started in, you know, like gradually, and then probably over a year or two, by the end of it, I was just in excruciating pain all the time in my wrists. And I couldn't sleep, and I had them all propped up, and I had like braces, and I was doing everything I could, but I did a lot of facials and body treatments. And so there's a lot of massage involved. And so I started going to the doctor and specialists, and they said, find a new career.
Oh no. Well, good now. Yay. But that was probably so hard.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was hard. So, but then again, like then that was another crazy change. So I feel like I'm just chatting so much. Should I do you want to chime in, or should I just keep going?
Keep going.
Okay.
We want to know more. We just want to know all the Celine goodness. So
okay. So yeah, so that was another like big moment. At that point, my kids were little, like, oh man, I'd say under or like the 5-6 range years old. And so on top of the kids and this business, in the evenings, just for fun, I had become a fitness instructor.
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I knew this about you. Maybe I did.
Really? I don't think I've talked about it as much because it was sort of like this weird like limbo phase. So I was kind of devastated from losing this aesthetics business that I had built and grown, and just, I couldn't keep going because I couldn't find the staff and I couldn't do it myself. And so, but because I've always been like goal and career oriented, I'm like, on to the next. So what are you going to do next? So even though I had been doing this evening part-time, I'm like, well, I'm really into fitness right now. And so let me go get certified as a personal trainer and all these certifications for nutrition and fitness and all that good stuff. And let's do that. And so there was about 5 years when that's what I did. So I would teach like 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. boot camps. Then I would do like personal training in the middle of the day. And then I would do nighttime group fitness classes. And I really tried to make a go of that. But the thing about it wasn't, looking back now, I don't think it was really who I was at my core. Like, who I was is the kid that wanted to draw and like eat cookies.
Yeah.
Like
Me too.
Yeah. Like fitness, it's fun and you get the endorphins, but it's also hard, and it's hard on your body and this and that, but it didn't involve my wrists really. And so I could do it. And at the time I thought it was like my thing. So I did that for like 5 years. And actually, fun fact, something I haven't said a lot, in that time, Sarah, I wrote and self-published a book about like losing weight after having a baby. And
You did? Can I buy it? I mean,
please, no.
Is it on Amazon?
No.
Okay, we will not have a link for that.
No, don't have a link. But it's funny, like I was that invested. Like
wow.
I'm gonna like, when I do things, I like do
You're
it.
already published. Yes.
So funny. Anyway, so that was like that phase. But what happened is I just wasn't, I knew that it just wasn't, like I wasn't as passionate as I had to be to really be as successful as I wanted to be. And through this whole time, I've been with my husband since I was 19. And so he knows that I'm passionate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay.
Oh, that's sweet.
And so the whole time, even though I wasn't making art, like I would talk to him about art and I would drag him to museums. And anytime we take a trip, it was like, let's go check out the galleries and let's watch this documentary. And so I wasn't creating anything at all, but he knew that I had this passion, and I would always like, oh, maybe I should kind of thing. And I never did it. And so anyway, it all sort of came to a head. I was unhappy. He knew I was unhappy. And he's like, what do you actually want to do? Like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I want to make art. And he's like, then fucking make it already. Yes. Like, what are you waiting for? Right. So anyway, we had this like heart to heart, and I still didn't do anything for probably like 2 or 3 months or whatever. I just didn't. It was like
hard. It's hard to get started.
I think it's like fear definitely is there for me. And I think as a person who wants to do well and wants to be successful, fear of failure is like ever present in my mind. The older I get, luckily, I'm starting to reframe that. Like, I think for me now in my 40s, like not trying is the failure. Like whatever you do, you're doing something, and that's propelling you forward in whatever way, even if it's just learning a new thing, making new friends. Like there's successful parts of whatever you're doing, even if you don't necessarily think it's the, title of what you were looking for. You're finding other things. So failure is really just doing nothing. And so I did finally start, and that was like 2018. Wow. I found like stuff I had laying around the house, probably from the kids and like leftovers from going to art supply stores, which I'm still obsessed with, buying stuff and then never using it. And anyway, so one night everybody went to bed, and then I finally said, okay, you've been thinking about what would you make if you were going to make for 20 years. So do some of that. And so I did, and I loved it. I loved like doing it, but I actually loved like what I made.
Yeah.
And so then again, that was like another place. And I have to say too, I just want to share with people, because I know you have like a wide range of like artists, but also maybe like my mom, I would say like creative types, or people who maybe want to do more art.
People who just like art.
Yeah. Like it's okay just to make stuff without a specific, like, I'm going to sell it at this show, or like, you
Yes.
know what I mean? Like, just to be
Yeah.
creating again. Yeah. So even though I didn't really know like where it was going to go, although I knew in my heart of hearts, I always wanted to be an artist. Basically the first 2 years I spent experimenting, doing some online classes. I did an oil painting class in person, which was life-changing again, because oil and me are like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, thick as thieves. I love oil painting. And so, yeah, so that 2018, and then here we are now in 2021. Did that
Yeah.
do it good?
Yes. Well, and I know from another interview you did, you talked about the 100-day project. Was that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that kind of got the creative juices flowing a little bit for you too, right?
Yeah.
At the
So
beginning?
in 2018 into 2019, I was doing things on my own. But because I didn't go to art school, like university level, and because it had been 20 years, like trying to figure out, okay, like, what do I make? Like, what do I do was challenging. So I I looked for things that gave me like a framework.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a couple of challenges. I did one that I found, I think it was on YouTube, called the 20-day portrait challenge.
Mm.
Then I did 30 paintings in 30 days. And then I did the 100-day project. And again, I'll let you know, I don't think I completed any of the, like,
Yeah.
I think with the portrait one, I think I did 16, and I'm like, all right, done. Then the 30 days, I think I did like 20 something, and I was like, done. But it
Yeah.
propelled me always to the next
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So they were still useful for me, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I've done the 100-day project, also did not finish it, which is okay.
What did you do? What did you do?
100 days of just painting because I wanted to get
Okay.
into the habit of painting every day. Well, then I realized I don't know if I want to paint on the weekends. So it did get me for real. It's like, I mean, you can set it up in different ways, but
Yeah, well, that's the nice thing about the 100-day project. And by the way, it's starting on February
yeah,
23rd, if anybody is looking for
yeah,
a
something.
catalyst. Yeah. So I did 100 days of sketching because I actually hate drawing.
Mm,
But I know it's like the foundation of what I want to make. And so I forced myself, but I set the limitation too, that I had a small sketchbook, like, I don't know, like this big.
okay.
And I only had to draw for 10 minutes. I could go longer, but I couldn't just, do an X's and O's and like tap out. I had to spend
Mm,
a concerted 10 minutes to draw something. And that was fabulous because, like in art school, you're going to do life drawing classes all the time. And so for me to say, okay, what's in front of me, and you have to sit down and put your timer and draw, that was a good challenge for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get some new ideas for painting from doing the challenge? No.
Absolutely not. Like,
Oh,
I think the funny thing about like my work, when I did finally do my first art fair, people were like, oh, it's like a cohesive body of work, but that was not my intention, because I had been thinking about what I wanted to express and what I wanted to create for 20 years.
mm-hmm.
So I kind of had that idea. The experimenting I did was kind of to figure out, like, could I execute what I had in my brain in real life? And I tried a whole variety of mediums, because back to my high school days, like, we weren't allowed to use oil. And so as much as I loved painting, I would always find like acrylics dried too fast for me. So I was fighting the medium a lot. And so allowing myself to experiment and take this class on oil painting was another, like, a really important part of this process.
I love it. I love your story
Yeah.
so much, Celine. And I feel like you have such a great attitude and mindset about the changes. It probably was painful in the moment, but you are fully embracing who you are and moving forward in a way that's so beautiful and so true to you. It's just, I just am in awe I mean, it's only been a few years and look at what you're doing. So, oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you for sharing all of that. I know you
I know
did
that
an
was a
interview.
lot. Sorry, but
It's a lot. It's a great. Everyone's gonna love it. There is another interview you did with Danielle Chrissa, the Jealous Curator, and I also thought that was such a great interview talking about your story. And I'm gonna put a link to that because I just love that interview so much. So people can check that out. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna describe your art, and I know it's an audio format, and we will have this posted on YouTube so people can see. You do have one of your paintings that you're working on right behind you.
oh yeah, right behind me.
Oh, it's luscious. It's so beautiful. And I will say, I think the first time I saw your art was on Instagram.
Yep.
I don't know if I was a member of the Art Queens yet, but your work completely stopped me in my tracks, like in a way that it was like the music in the background stops and you walk into this local bar and like everybody's looking at you. It was kind of like that. It was like, wait a minute, who is this person? And the first piece I saw of yours was the one, I think it's the one that Ashley Longshore bought, with the high heels and the ankle socks, the girl crouching down.
Yes.
That piece. And it was like, who is this artist? I need to know more. So I want you to describe to our audience your artwork and your connection to fashion and what you're doing. I just want you to describe it. So amazing.
Okay. So I have been working on trying to figure out how to describe it. And I think the way I describe it it's been helpful, like hearing people's feedback. So anyway, my art tends to be quite bright and bold. It has a strong connection to fashion, and specifically for me, the connection between fashion and identity, and like who we are and how we show up in the world, and how a lot of people use fashion to express themselves or maybe hide in a certain way or blend in. Like, I just am really fascinated with all of that. And so, yeah, it has a strong focus on that. It has, I closely crop my images and zoom in. And I think a lot of that is, again, influence from, fashion magazines. And then also, you're American. I'm not sure if you had this, but there was a magazine that I loved when I was growing up called Owl. Did you ever see that magazine?
I don't
Owl.
know.
Okay. So it's called Owl. And like, it was like science and environment and world, like so a far departure from fashion, but they would always have this section that was like, guess what it is. And so they would have like 6 images and they would be zoomed in like super, super tight.
Okay. Yes. I have
and it would
seen
be
this.
like, I don't know, a beehive and then like the fur on the bee. And you had to like try to figure out, because they would all be connected. But when you only got this like really zoomed in piece, and I loved it was kind of like a puzzle figuring it out. And I loved like a bee flying by you. Yeah, it's black and yellow and fuzzy and kind of cute. But when you like really zoom in on like the eyeball of the bee or the fur or whatever that's called, or the wings or whatever, I just love all of that. And so I sort of have taken that with my work, in that everything is zoomed in and really big. And so, if I was painting a really detailed piece of clothing on a 10 by 10, as a painter, you're not going to be able to you'll give the impression of the piece, but to get all those details is a bit harder. So that's why I really like to zoom it up. So my pieces tend to be like 36 by 36 or bigger. Like this one behind me now is like 48 by 48. And I'm getting ready to I did one mural last year. And this year I have a show coming in Toronto in May, and they want pieces like really big. So the biggest ones I'm going to do for them are going to be like 60 by 60. So big. And I love that. So that, and I don't know, do you think that helps?
Yeah. Fabric, texture.
And colors, like when I say bold colors, I mean, like I grew up in the 80s and 90s with like really bright, really bold neons and hot pinks and greens and blue, like, I mean, bright, like super bright. So yeah, that's what I'm really
I'm
drawn to and I bring into my work.
Oh, I love that. What about, there are sometimes stories too behind the pieces,
Yes.
which is so fascinating to me and endless. I mean, you could someday you're gonna have people mailing you like a YouTuber that you're gonna get a like shipments of random pieces of clothing and people are gonna want you to paint them.
Well, that's what I want. Like, so yes, I've done that a little bit and I'm trying to do that more and more and more and more. Um, so there's a number of different ones that have a story. Let me try to think of one
Was there a yellow
specifically that you
dress?
probably like.
You
Yeah, so
who interviewed you and you talked about that? Because that would be, it was
I mean,
the
maybe it
immigrant
might have been
family.
Danielle. Yes. Yes. So a family immigrated from Russia to Canada, and the dress that I saw was just in my local vintage store. So I was walking by and it was just the dress that first caught my attention because it's like this beautiful, ruffly, yellow, gorgeous, gorgeous dress. And so I popped into the store and I asked them, hey, like, and it was tiny. It was like, it would fit around my forearm, like tiny. So I could never wear it, but I thought maybe they'll rent it to me and I could photograph it and then paint it, right? So she says, well, I can't rent it to you because I don't own it. It's on consignment, but I'll get in touch with the owner. And if she wants to, allow you to do that, that's between you two. So anyway, like 10 minutes later, the owner calls me and she's like, oh my God, I heard you want to paint it. And I sent her to like my Instagram so she could see like what it would look like. And she was so excited. So, she told me the story of the history of the dress. And then I'm like, oh my God, like, not only is it gorgeous, but the story. So her family immigrated, like her like extended family, and it was terrible. Like they left and they were on like a horse and buggy. I'm talking like a long time ago, and 13 kids, and like it was awful. And they made it to the Ukraine, but then from there they were sent to Canada, and they came through Pier 21, which is like, so Nova Scotia is on the
Okay.
water, and so a lot of immigrants came through Pier 21, so it's still there. So there's that weird little touch point to like where I live now, which is kind
Yeah.
of cool. But from here, they went out west in Canada, and then they were farmers. So they got set up and they're starting this new life farming. And then there was like devastating floods across this area that they were relocated to. So then they were relocated again back to Ontario and started life again. And just so much adversity that this family went through time and time again, until finally, this was her great aunt's dress. And what happened was she was the first in their family to like go to school and graduate high school. And
Oh my God.
so it was like such a monument, like all this that they had overcome. And now here, like the next generations coming up are having these opportunities and going to school. And so like the family pitched in and they took a trip to New York City and wanted to find her like a really special dress. And they bought that dress, and it's like a Vogue Miss Vogue dress.
Wow.
And that was her graduation dress. And so the person, her name is Julie, who let me paint it, she's like, I've been holding on to it forever. Like I didn't want to let it go. And it was really hard for me to like put it in the consignment store. And now you're going to like immortalize it in a painting. But had she kept it in her attic,
Yeah.
like none of that would have happened. Right. So anyway, it was just like, I just love that. And I love how we use fashion as a celebration or maybe as comfort. Like if you have, a favorite sweater that was given to you by somebody, like I just love, people discount it as superficial or, just, and nowadays it's funny too, because I'm having this internal conflict of late with like how we've gone into fast fashion.
Yeah.
I'm guilty. It's accessible and it's fun. And so I have this weird push pull between like how important fashion can be and how it can really say a lot. And on the other hand, it can be completely frivolous and just discarded and thrown away. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to like tap into like vintage clothes with history and stories. And I'm also trying to like, you know, my kids are in that Gen Z with thrifting and vintage is cool again. And like, so I'm trying to also incorporate that. So for example, that painting that you mentioned, my daughter was my model. The whole outfit was thrifted, vintage clothes that I had found or collected, but the shoes were mine from when I was a teenager, and then my daughter was wearing it. And so it was like just all these worlds colliding with fashion.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that whole mix of stuff.
I love the stories.
Yeah.
The stories behind the pieces it's just one more level of awesome. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And it's, when you look at it, a lot of times, and this can be true with a lot of art, like until you sort of dig in and start asking questions and why the creator is making it, it might just be pretty. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay that somebody sees it, it's like, oh, that's just really beautiful. Great. If it just brings a little pop of color and joy, awesome. And if you're interested in like the backstory, I'm there for that too. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so good. And the conversations around fashion, there's so much to talk about, Celine, that you're never gonna, it's like the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more underneath that you could explore if you want to. And it's not your job to necessarily cover all the topics. Maybe being drawn to vintage is plenty of material for you for the next however many years,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I believe that artists we live these very interesting lives from people on the outside. So I'm just wondering, what does a typical day look like for Celine, the artist? I know.
It's a shit show. That's what it is. I don't know. Like, yeah. So once I, transitioned out of the fitness stuff and I was really just experimenting, but again, that's something that comes with time. Like my husband and I had established, a life for ourselves, and he was working. And so I had the freedom to take that time and to not put a lot of pressure on myself in terms of art until around 2020. And then I thought, you know what, I really would like to pursue this professionally. And so that's when it started to be like trying to set aside a time to treat it as a profession, but also I'm a mom, and I had been home because I was, because of my fitness stuff, I was home. And so the kids were used to that. Anyway, so it's still challenging to set that, set the restrictions for all of my people to know, like, this is art time. I'm lucky enough that I do have a studio which is attached to my house, but not directly accessible through my house. So I have to go outside and into my studio. So it makes a little bit of a divide. But I mean, in a perfect world, everybody would go to school. I would walk the dog for an hour, get myself ready, be in my studio by 10. This is the master plan. And then I would work away in the morning, take a lunch break, and then work away until around 3 when the kids come home. But I don't know, man, you're a parent, and probably a lot of listeners are parents. There always seems to be something thrown in. So a typical day when I can would be that. But then there's also like, it's not always painting. And that's the other thing that people have a hard time understanding, I think, is to be a professional artist and successful at it. There's a lot of business, and behind the scenes, applying for opportunities and doing stuff like this. Like I host a podcast, you have a there's all this stuff. So there's some computer work, there's some painting. It's like I said, it's a bit of a shit show. It's a real mashup, but I just try to make sure that I do something every day, which happens most days. So there,
something like something applying to your career.
Yes. Okay. Something art related during that 10 to 3 every day. So sometimes it's painting, sometimes it might not be painting, sometimes it's a bit of both.
Yeah. And your husband works, and you are running your household, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. So my husband, in the last couple of years, has started working overseas and traveling for work. And so a lot of the times it's me holding down the fort while he's traveling for work. But it's all good. He's pursuing something that's been a passion of his that he's dreamt of doing, and I'm happy and proud of him that he's doing that. And then we're just making it work. But yeah, it does. There's also that's the thing, like all the evening stuff. Like, truth be told, I'm like a night owl person. I love painting at night. I still do that sometimes. Like when everybody goes to bed, I feel like my most creative. And so I have been known to like start painting at 10 and stop painting at 2. Cause I don't know, there's just something about the whole world being quiet. But then I pay for it the next day when I have to get up and walk the dog and, get my son ready for school and all that stuff. So I'm trying really to stick with the 10 to 3, but I guess that's why there's no typical day, because it just, whatever happens. Yeah.
I can relate to everything you said. 100%.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, sometimes I get very frustrated and sometimes I'm trying to just roll with it more. Like, this is the season of life that I'm in, and my children will not be here forever. And they have a basketball game tonight. That's fine. I enjoy watching them, but there's a lot of hats. We wear a lot of hats. So, which is good.
There's a lot. Yeah.
You seem to have a really good attitude about it though. And I think in order to, do something art related daily and then to be flexible because things come up, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Okay. All right. So you have a podcast too, and I absolutely love your podcast. I thought we would talk about that for a second.
Sure.
And encourage my listeners. So you consider yourself an emerging artist. And what I love about your podcast is it's a behind the scenes look at what it's like to be an emerging artist. So I know that a lot of my listeners will really enjoy that, and they probably already listen. But tell me about your podcast that you started.
Yeah. So the podcast is what I wish I had like when I was first getting started, because not having gone to post-secondary art school, not having an art community where I live, not having any art peers of any kind, not knowing where to start was intimidating and scary and confusing. And so I did start looking for resources and tools, and I figured it out obviously, but I wanted to create the podcast to sort of like reach back and share nuggets and information for people who might be a few steps like behind where I have been able to get to so far. And so I have a co-host, and it's mostly just her and I talking about, she's an emerging artist as well. And so she's a glass artist though, so totally different from painting, which I also love that it's like two totally different worlds of art, and it is different. So so she and I talk about our own personal journeys, what's going on, what's working well, what's not working well. We try to be like super honest and transparent about like the good and the bad. And then we also often will like pick a topic for that week and reflect on things that work for us or don't work for us. And so it's basically a lot of talking. My co-host's name is Jade, and she's on Instagram at Color Worship. She makes beautiful glass work. You can go check that out. And it's just a fun, relaxed, honest conversation between two emerging artists, basically.
Yeah, it's so fun to listen. And I think even if you're not an artist, it's just very fascinating to hear about what it's like to start your art career and to work and be persistent and have goals. And it's so much fun to listen. I love your podcast. I highly recommend it.
Sarah. Well, in the art world, I don't know if you find this too, but it's so secretive. Like a lot of people, like how they got to where they got and how they did it and what were the steps. It's just nobody really talks openly about it. Once you have success, people want to talk to you about your success, but nobody is like, so it was a shit day today, huh? Tell me more about why it was such a shit day. Like, those are things I want to know about. Like on the days when people are struggling, why? What is the struggle? What was frustrating? So that then I can try to avoid those things, right? Like I want to learn from example. Like obviously, nobody gets to success without some adversity and failure, right? Like probably more failure than unsuccessful people, because you got to try so much stuff to get success. So what did you try and how did that go? Like, give me that insider info, and then maybe I can like leapfrog over that stuff. Right. So that's what I was really interested in.
And I mean, you have a lot of things on your plate. So the one thing I really admire about you, Celine, and I think is so wonderful is that transparency, the importance that you find in sharing, teaching, lifting other people up. It is truly an investment of your time. And why do you think that's important to share? Because I do appreciate that so much about you is that you're crushing it, selling these gorgeous paintings and making them. But then you also are giving in a way that is so refreshing. And something I also love about the Art Queens is it's a community of sharing and it's not about keeping those secrets. So,
Yeah.
why does that matter to you to do that? Like, how do you, I don't know. It's obviously you're doing
That's
it
a great,
you're very intentional, you're very good at it. And
yeah, that's great, Sarah. Like, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. I don't know what it is. Like, I've just always been, I just feel like everybody should do well. I feel
mhm,
like, why are we gatekeeping or keeping secrets when there's like enough for everybody? Whatever it is, right? Like when I was an esthetician, obviously with staff, I would do a lot of training. Like if you're gonna do a pedicure, you're gonna do the best damn pedicure you can, and I'm gonna show you how. I'm not gonna like make you figure that out. Or with like, I don't know, fitness, it was the same. And so I think it's just, I don't know. I mean, I've also had really good examples in my life of people willing to share with me.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
I just think it's this like big circle that I think we
mhm.
should always be looking out for one another and sharing what we have because there is enough to go around. And
Yeah.
so keeping secrets about how you got to a certain place or what's working, it's not benefiting anybody except greedy assholes. And I don't want to be one of them. So
Right?
I
Amen to
feel like,
that. And
no, I'm
it's
like,
something about sharing of yourself and having the universe paying you back in a way, right? Of you
absolutely.
feel you feel compelled to share, to teach, to pass on, to encourage. And in a way it's like the full circle. It's going to come back and it's going to help you too, or it's going to give you a lift. Maybe it's just going to make you feel better. Maybe that's part
Yeah.
of it. But we just got done with our little group. And we can talk
Yes.
about that in a second. But the one thing you did say, which I absolutely love, the same quote is about the boats. How does it go?
Yes. The rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes. And I'm all
And
about
that's,
that.
I love that. And I live in a part of the country with the highest tides in the world. So literally, my parents live on the water and there's a wharf, like right, like a fishing wharf right down the road from them. And so when the tide is out, all of the boats, the tiny boats, the big boats, they're all literally sitting in the mud.
Oh,
And
really?
as the yeah, it's the
Huh.
coolest thing. Google tides, Bay of Fundy, Nova Scotia. You'll see a time lapse video. It's freaking incredible, and it happens twice a day. Like that's another thing. Nature is fucking fascinating. So anyway, the boats are in the mud. The
Mhm.
water comes in, and regardless of your size of boat, by the end of the tide coming in, 13 meters of water, like billions and billions of water, tons of water come into this the Minas Basin, and all of the boats are at the top, and they can all go do whatever it is they're going to do for the day, right? And then when the tide
Wow.
goes out, they all have to come back in. So I think like I literally see that in my life all every day. This rising of the tide, it comes up, and that's also cyclical for another metaphor for life. Like you go, the tide is up, you're doing great. You're in the mud,
Mhm.
literally,
Literally.
right?
I
And so
love it.
I just think about that all the time. It's like, yeah, we want, I mean, imagine how incredible this world was if everybody was sharing
Yes.
whatever they could,
Yeah.
whenever they could. Like, there'd be more education, more health, more wellness, more wealth, more everything for everybody.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody should hoard anything. I think we should share if we can. I mean,
Share
obviously
our
you have
gifts.
to, yeah,
Yeah.
take care of yourself and your family for sure. But whatever little extra bits you
Mhm.
have to share, share them. So I
Oh,
think
I
that's
love
sort
that.
of my,
I love it, Celine. That's so good. And then, so that's a perfect segue to your pep rally groups, which
yes.
you just
So this is,
started. Where did you
I
get the
know.
idea?
I I I don't know. It just like one day it was just there. It just came to me because So my artist pep rallies are these monthly groups that I just started like back in November on a whim, actually, just to see if anybody would. It sounded like a great idea to me. And so I thought, well, let me throw it out there and see what happens. Anyway, so what it is I get a group of 6 artists together, and we meet once a week to hype each other up, share information and tips and tricks. Yeah, once a week on a video call, and then we do it for 4 weeks. So I intentionally wanted it like short and sweet so that it was realistic for people, because we're so busy, and so to commit to a long thing is hard sometimes, but sometimes you just really need that little like oomph, right? And so yeah, I started these pep rallies, and it's a close-knit group, and it's designed in a way, I think when we were on our call, so Sarah, in case you don't like, Sarah was part of one of these groups. And so I'm like the facilitator and the host, but each person is, what's the word? Required, I guess, to participate. Like, it's not like a webinar where one person talks and everybody listens and then maybe there's Q&A at the end. Like, no, the spotlight is on each artist, each of the 6 artists, for a portion of the call to both ask for help or give help, right, to one another. And again, it's kind of like referring back to what we were just saying. I feel like I can offer my experience, but the wealth and knowledge of a collective group is so like 1,000 times more than what I could possibly hold. And so that's the idea with these pep rallies, is that we're sourcing knowledge and information from everybody's experience, everybody's life, everybody's art practice. And the groups that we have are broad and diverse, and from different cultures and different stages of life and different art practice. Like, it's such a nice melting pot. I don't know if that's the right word I want to, but you know, like it's just, it all comes together, and we're able to help each other in such a lovely way. And then you have that connection too, because again, as an artist in a small town and working from my home, there's that isolation and loneliness that we can feel as artists, but as humans, especially during COVID. And so it's just another way to find closer connections with people, you know, that you might have not otherwise met.
Yeah, it's so amazing. So I just, today we wrapped up our last session for January, and you do have spots available for February. Well, actually, this is going to air on February 7th. So for March.
So maybe March.
Yeah. So you're going to have another couple sessions in March, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they're still available.
Going.
Yeah. If not, you can get on a waiting list with Celine, but I loved joining, and it is you pay a little nominal fee. It's $100 Canadian, right? For the month. Or for US it's 80. So I thought, well, it's $20 a week. It's an hour and a half call on Zoom. And it's not just a pep rally. It's truly it's like a mini mastermind for artists. And the amount of the value that I got out of being in that group, I couldn't say enough. It helped me break through something I had been something I've been working on for 13 years. I wanted to switch it up in my art business. And these guys gave me the encouragement and the bravery to make a change, which is really good. And also give me permission to be a little more graceful with myself, work on whatever I needed to talk about that week. And then Celine is so good about keeping track of time and being very good about, she's very nice about it. If you're getting
I do my best.
Does a really great job of that. And so you don't have one person talking most of the time. And it's been a wonderful way to connect with other artists. And I know that the artists that I met in this group, I will be friends with forever. I think, we'll all be there encouraging each other, and just seeing the amount of growth and success of the artists in the group in 1 month is pretty amazing. We had artists that sold art. We had artists that completed paintings, and what else, Celine? I can't even think about it. Submitted
to stuff. won prizes,
Yeah.
Sarah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, winner, winner. That was
I did win.
amazing.
Yeah, I did win an award. And Celine, definitely encourages um, going for those opportunities, whether they're local or international. This was a local opportunity that I probably would have bypassed. I don't know. I think my mindset has changed so much about different aspects of my art practice. So I can't say enough about the group. It's not just at first I didn't know if it was like a show and tell situation where we would be showing our pieces and then everyone would give you positive feedback. I think that if you wanted to do that, you could, but
Oh, for sure.
it was just more of a planning session and really talking about our own individual struggles and what we wanted to work on. So I could not say enough. And I know you do have scholarship opportunities too for those who, you have a spot available for each session for people who,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
I
well, I
love
love
that.
that you say that because I feel like that's exactly it. Like when the spotlight is on you, if you want to like show up artwork and get help with a piece, that's totally fine. If you want to talk about business, if you want to talk about how your husband's driving you crazy, like you can talk about whatever is on your mind that day with us. It's like there's no limitation there. And so back to the no limitation, I do offer one spot in each group for somebody who maybe is really interested, but just at this point in time can't afford the $100 or just whatever the circumstances are, but they want to participate. So I reserve one spot, and nobody except me and that person obviously know that that person is like the I don't know what to call it, scholarship or whatever. I don't know what to describe it, but nobody, like you're completely equal once you're in the group, and nobody's none the wiser, and it's just like all good, and we're happy to have
Yeah.
everybody there.
So
Yeah.
great.
So
There's a little bit more I want to talk about, but I want to be really aware of your time. And so,
you know me, I'm chatty, and we're here now. So let's keep going.
okay. Before I get to my rapid round, I love your transparency so much. Um, it's like you have this amazing art, and then you also have these teaching moments and these supporting and these moments where you're sharing so much. So one thing that I think is incredible is your willingness to talk about money. And you have shared before online, numbers, very specific numbers about money, how much you sold last year, what types of income streams you had. This year, you have a special project, and I would love to have you share about that. It's so awesome.
Okay. So this year, just why not? Right. I was just, it actually came from social media. I got the spark. There was a graphic that shared how to make $1 million. And it was just not like a gimmicky get rich quick pyramid thing. It was just simple facts. So it said like, I'm going to tell you, there was like many different
Mhm.
variations, but I'll just tell you the one that I fixated on. So it was like, if you sell an item for $200, you only have to sell it to 5,000 people because that will make you $1 million. And it was like, and then they show other versions like, this amount of dollars, that many people, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I don't think I just never thought about earning money or $1 million broken down. It just always seems like this huge amount of money, completely unattainable, not realistic. And as an artist, we're told, good luck, you're never going to make any money at this. You're going to struggle forever. Nobody's going to buy your art, blah, 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 blah. All these rules. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't sell prints because then you're a sellout. All this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I fucking hate that shit. I feel like do whatever works for you and you'll figure it out. And maybe it will be, and maybe it won't be. But again, back to what I said earlier, you got to try, right? So I thought, well, so I'm a slow painter. Oh yeah, this is another fun fact. Last year, I only painted 6 completed paintings in the whole year.
Oh
Okay,
my.
6.
Okay.
So even if I sold them all, I at the I'm not selling them for $100,000, right? So
Yeah.
even selling all my work, which I do sell my work, which is fabulous. Thank you
Yeah.
to everybody, who supports me. But 6 paintings is really not enough, but that's just me. And so therefore I made the decision to start selling limited edition fine art prints, which are reproductions of the paintings, but I limit them to 100 of each one. And so I just thought, and I started selling those, and some people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that because then like devalues your work. And I just don't care about any of that. I'm an artist.
Right.
I need to feed my family. I need to make a living. And so in order to make that happen, prints make sense for me. So I have different sizes, but the long story short is the larger size is like $195. So around that $200 that I talked about earlier. And so it got me thinking like, holy shit, there's 8 billion people on this planet. If just 5,000 of them would have a $200 investment in one of my prints, then in theory, I could make $1 million as like a working artist. And that just breaking it down like that and thinking, holy shit, I mean, it's not as crazy as it superficially sounds when you break it down that way. Or at least to me, maybe to some people still sounds crazy.
No.
But I think to me, it sounds way less crazy to think that, or whatever you do, maybe you sell hoodies for $200. Maybe, I don't know what you do, but $200 price point is not totally out of reach for most people, like a thousands and thousands of dollars painting is. Right. And so I just thought, let me just see. And so I decided to make it the $1 million artist project. And week by week, literally share. If you go look at the videos, so I've been using the hashtag TMDAP, the $1 million artist project. If you search that hashtag on Instagram or TikTok, you'll see all my videos. And I like break down my thought process behind it and looking at what I did last year and how, last year I sold 61 prints. So far from 5,000, but anyway, I just really break it down and week by week share the numbers and like what's happening behind the scenes. And so who knows, if I'll get anywhere near that. It still feels incredibly vulnerable every single time. I'm in this weird state because when I post it, I'm like, oh my God, everybody's going to see it and they're going to judge me or something. And so then I have those feelings, and then I post it and like 3 people see it. And then I'm like, oh my God, nobody's seeing it. Why isn't it?
Oh, that's a whole other topic, is Instagram. Oh my goodness. But
anyway, so
whenever
I just try to,
it's encouraging though, Celine, you have no idea. So when you sell your 5,000th print, when, because it's going to happen, that's one really cool thing that's happened. But also, here's a big part of it. People like me, other artists, other people who have businesses are going to look at this and say, look at her do that. I can do that too. And that's the whole raising of the tide, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
You putting yourself out there and sharing this is showing that it's possible. And you're also getting a bunch of people to rally behind you, because I'm super excited. I have a print coming my way from you. So
yes, thank you for your support, Sarah.
Yeah. So everybody listening should buy your prints, because you're doing this, but your work is so beautiful. It's like, of course.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's like don't buy it just to be nice to me. Buy it if you like it.
Buy it because you love it. And Celine is amazing. But so for you to put yourself out there like that is also setting a really great example for other people, and also to talk about money, which is something that we need to do more of. So
well, it's this money mindset thing. Like, it's a fact in our society or around the world, like you need money to survive. And so why is it a shameful thing that you are trying to actively get the thing that helps you put a roof over your head and food in your belly and the belly of your family? It's like, it's not a shameful thing, but there's this weird, like our culture is so messed up. We're obsessed with money and also ashamed of it at the same time. what is with that? So I'm just trying to get people to be more open and honest about it. Again, just so that there's information that, oh, okay, I never thought about this, or I never thought about that. Like last year, I didn't know that you could get paid for talking. And so like that wasn't it. Well, I knew you could, like if you're Obama, you can, but as a like, you know, newbie artist, I didn't know there were opportunities for that. And that was a different income stream. And like, there's little ways that you can make it work. Right. And the more we talk about it, the more people know those opportunities are there.
Absolutely. And even having that conversation about originals versus prints. So
yes,
doing the math, because I've done the math before too, where, oh, if the average painting I sell is even $500 to make this much money, I'm gonna have to make X amount of paintings this year. And I'm not a robot, you know, I'm not an art factory. So to really, be an example of you are actually looking at the numbers from a business standpoint, and you're really trying to figure out, okay, well, I don't want to make more than 6 originals a year because I don't have the time or the bandwidth or the energy. So this is a new way that I'm going to make money. So all very smart and practical and wonderful that you're sharing. Okay. The only thing we didn't talk about was your ugly planner, which is my favorite. I know you've done videos and you've talked about the ugly planner on Instagram. So if you guys are interested in this ugly planner concept, I'm not going to make it Celine explain it, but basically she has so generously helped a lot of artists. And I think other people who are not artists could also benefit from learning about the ugly planner. It's a $1 notebook she bought that she's made tabs and set goals. And I'm just going to encourage people to go to your Instagram page to learn more if they're interested.
It's there. I did a live fairly recently where I really dig into it, and it's still in my whatever feed. Okay. So yeah, it's there if anybody wants it.
I have mine in my studio, and I'm from the school of Celine. That's what I called it. I was like, I'm in the Celine Gabrielle school here, and I'm doing it. So this year I made an ugly planner, and it's already helped me a lot. So
yay,
okay.
Great.
I'm going to give you the rapid round, which is like the same questions I ask everybody, and I don't want you to think too hard. All right. This is just for fun. Ready?
Got it. Yep. Ready.
Celine, what is your favorite color?
Oh, easy. My favorite color is green.
Okay.
But can I add a little? I know it's supposed to be rapid. Green is my favorite because, well, for a number of reasons, like it's just nature and it's fresh and it's new. But I really like, because whenever somebody puts me on the spot, it's green, but I love all colors. Like you can see that in my work, but definitely green, nature, freshness, love it.
What shade of green? Because I'm going to get real specific.
Any. Now, so now that I can't. Okay. I love like acid green, really vibrant and crazy. Yeah. And then I love like forest green, like that deep, dark, rich, like comforting green. I love all the greens. Yeah. Greens are great.
I agree. Green is my second favorite color. So yes. And you know, green's having a moment right now. It is. Like green is big in decor and foliage and fake plants and real plants and
oh yeah, plants. Oh, and then that's plants, greenery in the house. It's nice. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Celine, so inspiration. Some people get their best ideas when they're in the shower. I'm not one of them, but for me, it's driving in the car. Like if I'm in the car by myself, that's where I get all my great ideas. Where does inspiration strike for you?
That's quick. I mean, probably totally sporadically, randomly for no apparent reason. Or I walk my dog every morning, and I do think that's probably when I think the most is when him and I have beautiful trails by my house. So it's really like just him and me in the woods. And that's a good thinking place. I do listen to podcasts and audiobooks though, but luckily they can be rewound because I go somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, what happened in that? I have to go back because my brain is kicking in and thinking about stuff. Yeah. I think in the mornings on the walks in the woods.
And you have a very cute dog. I love your dog. He's so cute.
I know, he's so cute.
So cute.
You know what though? We got him for the kids, but he's really my dog. and I thought he'd like to come in the studio with me, but my windows are like up high and he can't like look out of them down here because I'm like a little bit below, like I'm like half between and below ground in my studio. And so his perch on the couch upstairs where he can like see the whole neighborhood, that's where he stays. So I bring him down here now. He'll stay and then he'll go to the door and like give me the eyes and be like, I want to go upstairs. I'm like, I'm fine. So he's not much company, but it's very cute when we go on our walk. So I do get him for a little bit of the day. Yeah.
He's cute. Okay. Is there a movie or a book you want to mention just for fun?
Oh my God. Where do I start? I love both of those things.
You can pick both.
You know what I've been thinking a lot about is this book that had a lot of impact on me when I was in a teenager. Sorry, movie. Did I say book? I meant movie. Called Magnolia. Did you ever watch that movie? Yes. It had Tom Cruise,
Dolly Parton. Or I'm thinking Steel Magnolias. Never mind.
The red hair. Oh my God, I'm drawing a total blank. The director was Paul Thomas Anderson. Anyway, it was so impactful to me, and I still remember it as like basically you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you respond. It's like the gist I got from the movie, but there's like all these like mini stories within the movie. I just really remember enjoying. So I'm going to go back and watch it. I haven't watched it in a long time, so I'm not sure if it held up well, but I don't know. This is rapid fire, and that's the first thing that came to mind. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. I'm gonna look for it. I'm gonna look for it too and have a rewatch because I remember
we can watch it the same day and then we'll.
Okay. Yes, that's what we should do.
Okay.
That's what we should do. Find it, message each other, and then touch base. And then books. Okay. Last year, one of my goals in my ugly planner was to read, and by read I mean listen on Audible to a book a month. And oh my God, I blew through that. I listened to so many books last year, but probably I'm going to tell you two because I think everybody should listen to them. One is the fear or shoot, I'm going to look it up because I want to get it right. Rejection. Oh, Rejection Proof. Okay. So Rejection Proof by, I'm going to spell it because I don't know how to pronounce it. Jiang, that's the first name. And then Jiang is his second name.
Okay.
He's fabulous. He is a fabulous storyteller, wonderful concept, incredibly intelligent person. You'll love that book. And I think it helps a lot, like in anything, but as artists, like getting over rejection, because it's, you know, it's part of it. And then the other one that, oh my God, I'm looking at my list and I want to tell you about them all, but no, I'm going to hold it back and recommend Mindset by Carol Dweck.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Fabulous book. Really impactful. So, I mean, there's a lot of good ones out there. But those were the two, I think, that I read last year that probably were the most.
Okay.
Yeah. Really
I love it. Okay. So the part of the premise of my podcast is I have this idea for the podcast because I like sports, but I'm not good at sports. But
okay. Me
so
either.
I'm hoping a bunch of sport people that like art that might not be good at art. Anyway, listen. So is there something like an art form or a sport that you admired and you wish you were good at, but you're not?
Oh, again, like how do you make people pick one? This is so hard. There's like 1,000.
Okay, just go.
Okay, first one, probably, synchronized swimming.
Okay. Oh, that's fun.
That's a very me thing. Like, I think if I was going to be it, like, it would be something pretty. That's like visually pleasing and athletic at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, but I think people think it's frivolous, but then if you got in the water and tried to do that, there's no fucking way you would ever be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's an underestimated sport,
but it'd be really hard.
Really hard, you know?
Yeah.
So, and beautiful at the same time. So I love that. But I mean, I'm not okay. Yeah, that.
That's interesting.
I
know there's a little fashion to it, right? Like the cap.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about the glitz and glam too. Yeah. Right? Like it's so in my alley. Yeah, that one for sure.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. I think that's cool. All right, what is your studio beverage of choice when you work in your studio?
Tea. Well, water or tea. I don't drink coffee ever.
What? Shock.
I kind of wish I did actually, because there's not enough caffeine in tea. I feel like I need more from coffee, but I don't even like the smell of coffee. You know, people are like, oh, it just smells good. I'm like, no, don't do anything with the coffee at all.
Okay.
And if I'm really feeling fancy and I go downtown, I get a chai latte. Like that's my absolute favorite.
Oh, that's yummy.
But in the studio, it's like herbal tea, or I like Earl Grey.
Yeah, nice.
Pretty.
That shocks
Not,
me.
Not that exciting.
I can't imagine.
Really?
I can't imagine you on coffee. Like your brushes would be smoking. Like you'd be going so. I don't know. Like
maybe if I want to pay more than $6 a year, I should start drinking coffee. Right?
No, it's. Don't get started. You don't need to. You know.
I'm just kidding. No, it's all good. Yeah.
Okay. What is some creative challenge or advice you want to give our listeners? Is there anything
a challenge?
Yeah.
Oh, these are good. A creative challenge. I think actually what I love and is fun is give yourself a restraint.
Ooh.
Like instead of giving yourself more, try to push outside your normal. So for example, if you normally paint like 10 by 10, go and get a 36 by 36 paper or canvas or something and try to do something really big. If you always do like figurative, realistic, maybe you should force yourself to do an abstract and give yourself permission to suck.
Yes.
That'd be really terrible.
Yeah. Make all the terrible art.
Yeah. Right? Do something that you know you're going to be bad at and do your best at being bad. Like, I think that teaches you a lot. Like when we were talking earlier about the challenges, like the 30 paintings in 30 days, I limited myself to a 5 by 5 paper. And the only rule was that I had to complete it in that day. So sometimes so there was no time limit. It just had to be each day. So sometimes it would be abstract, which FYI, I'm not an abstract painter. So talk about making bad work. That was bad. And sometimes it would be realistic, but I was confined to within the day and this tiny, tiny square. And that was it. And so I learned a lot doing that. And actually it's funny, I should probably do that again. As I'm giving this out, I should probably listen to myself and put some context on myself and see what comes of it. Cause I think it pushes your brain into places that it doesn't normally go.
Yeah. That 100-day project is coming up and I'm so tempted. Yes. Like, oh, what can I
know
do?
the 100 is a big commitment.
That's a big one. I know.
Yeah. That's too much for me right now. But if, for anybody else, totally do the 100. But I mean, you could also make it like when I did it with the 10 minutes a day, like sometimes, even though it's a long duration of 10 days, if you can pull it into a shorter, finite amount of time within your day, that can work too. So
there's so many ways you could do it.
So many ways. Okay. Since you brought that up, everybody should Google the hashtag on Instagram, 100 Muggies, Muggies, or Lolly Ceramics, I think is her name. She did the 100-day project. She's a ceramicist. I think that's what you call it, or a potter. I don't know what she calls herself. She did the 100-day project and she did these mugs. And when you see that hashtag and see what she did, it's like phenomenal because she limited herself to mugs. She limited herself to one color. So basically the thing that was different every day was the handles of the mugs and 100 different handles. Like go look at it. So if you're thinking about constraining yourself, but then expanding your mind, she totally did that.
Oh my gosh.
Great example. Yeah.
Makes my head explode thinking about that. Like how many handles can you come up with? I'm going to look that up.
You got to look it up.
Oh my gosh, Celine, I feel like we could talk all day. And it's funny. So I feel like in high school, I had a geography class, but I think I was making like artsy little cards for my friends during class and didn't pay attention. Because the first time I messaged you, I was like, hey, I'm your neighbor in Michigan. And then after a while, I looked at a map and Nova Scotia and Michigan are not really that close, but so I'm sorry about that.
Enough.
I have no idea where I'm at. And I'm just, it's like, oh, we're totally neighbors. Actually, you're near New York and I am not. But But anyway, I digress. So thank you for
I
being
think
on.
most people don't know either. It's totally
I know,
fine.
I just assumed that Canada means like, you must be 2 hours from my house, but you're not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna move on here. So it's been so much fun interviewing you, and I'm really excited about this year. I'm excited about what is ahead and seeing what paintings come out of your studio, following your $1 million project, and all of the things. Is there a message? You have such an amazing story and you have come so far, and you're only beginning at the same time, like all of this amazing stuff going on in your life. What do you have a message to artists, and do you also have a message to non-artists that you want to tell, like as we close?
Ooh, yeah. So if you're already making art, just keep going. Just don't give up, right? Just keep going. And then if you are thinking about it or you're just not sure, I would say just start.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not really complicated or fussy advice, but
Yeah.
it served me well. Like the keep going thing in the beginning when I was really doubting myself, I wrote that on my bulletin board and I still have it there. And it's just like, it's hard sometimes and things don't go well or whatever, but then when it does, it's great. And so you just have to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And then advice to my old self that was scared to start, just start.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being on here, and tell your husband thank you for encouraging you to get back into your art. That
Oh,
is,
he'd love that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to give him all the credit, but
No.
yeah, no, I
No,
think
that's what
that's so
I tease him.
beautiful.
I'm like, yeah, he's always been there for me and he's a catalyst in a lot of ways for a lot of things, but he can't claim all the credit.
Right. But to have somebody close to you say, hey, remember when you used to like to do that thing? Maybe you should do that. I mean, sometimes it's just one comment that's going to
Oh,
be
yeah, for sure.
the Kickstarter for the next chapter in your life. So, well,
Absolutely.
Celine, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for your time today. And I do hope our listeners find you and support you in any way possible. There's many ways to do that. And I just cannot wait for the rest of the year and being in touch. So thanks again for being on my podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. You're amazing. I love everything that you're doing. And you're doing a lot of what, you're doing that sharing yourself. So we appreciate you and all that you do. Thanks.
Yay. Well, go team, right?
Go team. Exactly.
Like
the
one
rising
pep rally.
tide. We're just little boats in the
raising
water.
the boats. All right. I'll talk to you later. And thanks everybody for listening to today's episode. And we'll be in touch and see everybody in the future. So thanks again, Celine.
Bye.
You're the best. Bye.